proper estate plan can assist in the reduction of taxes on what you leave behind. And last but not least, estate planning reduces the chances of family conflict and unpleasant and costly legal battles.
99 FM, your inspiration station. This is Skrypt in the afternoon. I promised you a special guest in the building. If estate planning is something that's either been on your mind, on your heart for a while, something that you're interested in, something that you're curious about, we've got everything you need and a whole lot more. Today is a special day, as I said. We have Almarie Bartsch in the building, Chief Operating Officer and Company Secretary at PPS Insurance Namibia. And once again, if you had any questions, I know we had a caller that called in. John, if you are still listening, I hope you're still listening, because you specifically said you're going to sit down and listen to this one. Almarie, welcome to 99 FM.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Let's dive into it. I mean, I spoke about estate planning, and I'm sure there's one or two or three, maybe more people scratching their heads wondering, what is estate planning? Just in layman's terms, what is estate planning?
Now, let me start off. In essence, it is the process of organizing and managing your assets during your lifetime and determining how they will be distributed after your death. So I always like to use this quote from Benjamin Franklin that said there are two things in life which are certain. That is death and taxes. We all know that. And yet we pay our taxes religiously every month, but fail to deal with the death side of things, as I put it. It is interesting how many of us devote a lot of time planning vacations, buying cars, even selecting a spot to eat dinner. Than we do on estate planning. And that is basically to decide on who will inherit our assets when we are gone. There's also this general misconception that estate planning is only for the rich. This is entirely incorrect. Everyone, regardless of financial status or age, can actually benefit from a proper estate plan. Obviously, assuming you have assets to leave and people to leave them to. And maybe we avoid the topic of estate planning because we do not want to deal with the thought of death. It is, however, a vital part of good financial planning, as it forms the basis of the legacy we would like to leave through our will.
Now, what are some of the key components of estate planning, an estate plan?
Great. So one of the most important components of an estate plan is to have a legal will in place. A will is a legal document that basically outlines how your assets will be distributed after your death and who will be responsible for managing your estate. In other words, who will be the executor of your estate once you've passed away. Also, as part of estate planning, one can also decide to create a trust. A trust is a legal entity that can hold and manage assets on behalf of your beneficiaries in your estate and can in some instances provide tax benefits and protect your assets from creditors. It is, however, important to always consult with your tax and financial advisors should you want to create a trust. Another very important component of estate planning that we often overlook is to indicate who will have authority. In other words, the power of attorney to act on your behalf should you become incapacitated to make decisions. This can also include healthcare directives regarding your medical care if you are unable to make decisions yourself. This includes living wills and a medical power of attorney. Furthermore, important to make sure as part of your estate planning that you have nominated beneficiaries for your insurance policies, retirement accounts, and any other financial instruments that you want to leave behind. So proper estate planning can also assist with strategies to minimize estate taxes and other taxes that might affect the value of your estate.
Now, a lot of information there. I think most people are very familiar with the phrase life insurance, and it gets thrown around so much. But how can life insurance assist with estate planning?
Well, sometimes when you start documenting your assets and liabilities as part of your estate planning process, you will realize that you have more liabilities than assets. Unfortunately, probably most of us. So this will then result in an insolvent estate. Life insurance proceeds can then provide immediate cash to cover estate expenses such as funeral costs, taxes, and any other liabilities, ensuring that other estate assets do not need to be liquidated or sold. It can also assist, of course, to equalize inheritance among beneficiaries or heirs. For example, if one child inherits the family business, life insurance proceeds can be used to provide an equal inheritance to the other child. There's also situations where you are a business owner and life insurance can be used as a buy and sell agreement to provide funds for the purchase of a deceased owner's interest in the business, which can then in turn ensure smooth business succession. It is therefore offers flexibility and liquidity that can address various financial needs and goals within an estate plan.
Now, in terms of the inheritance there can be complications when things are not in place. And in steps a will, as you mentioned earlier. What is the importance, I guess, of a will?
Well, if a person dies without a last will and testament, his or her deceased estate, in other words, the assets they own at the time of death, will be distributed in terms of the Interstate Succession Act. We also know this as the rules of interstate succession, obviously a very technical term for most people. But due to there being no will setting out the deceased wishes, the Act will set out certain rules in respect of how the deceased estate must be distributed to the deceased heirs. The deceased does not have any control then of who will inherit from him or her, and the deceased estate will then basically lead to instances where someone may inherit even if the deceased may have never wanted those persons to benefit from his or her deceased estate. So that's a very dangerous situation to be in.
And your life's work being in the hands of the wrong person is definitely something that no one wants. But what will you say to people out there that maybe aren't convinced whether a will is necessary or not? Because, a lot of people will say, but I'm not even here, and, what happens after me doesn't matter. What would you say to those people?
Well, first of all, if you are still not convinced, then an estate plan and properly drafted will is necessary. Please consider the following factors. If you want to be able to choose who will inherit what, you need to do some estate planning. If you don't do that, like I state, you will be in the hands of the Master of the High Court in terms of the Interstate Succession Act. And I don't think that is a position that any of us wants to be in. Estate planning will also allow you, of course, to name a guardian for your children in the event of your premature death and if your children are still underage, which I think is extremely important. And then a proper estate plan can assist in the reduction of taxes on what you leave behind. And last but not least, estate planning reduces the chances of family conflict and unpleasant and costly legal battles.
And then that's the one that I think most people should be familiar with, because it's almost a norm, unfortunately, in many instances. And this is a very important conversation to have, because just financial literacy on all aspects. And, this is one that's very much overlooked time and time again. So I truly appreciate you coming through and educating us and reminding us the importance of estate planning as a whole. So, Almarie, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you so much. And please consult your financial advisor if you have any questions. Thank you for having me.
If you're listening and you wondered, estate planning, what's this all about? You hear exactly how important it is. And just in line with NaSIA's financial literacy campaign, educate yourself, find information, because it may not feel important today, but today isn't tomorrow. And life has different ways of humbling us when we're not prepared. So make sure you are financially literate and you understand your situation to the T.